Good evening, I'm Katerina Georgieva. Here's what's making news right now.
The security has been kind of an ongoing issue, right? We had issues with security sleeping in their cars and stuff before, back in October and November, and then we were told that they were replaced with a new company that was going to do better and be better.
I really wish they can come home and give us visits once in a month at least. If they cannot do it once in 2 weeks, at least once in a month, at least the social worker.
We began to face up to the work that needs to be done in order for our campus to become the inclusive, safe, just, and welcoming space that everyone in our community needs it to be.
Thanks for joining us. We begin tonight in Wheatley, where anger is brewing over shoddy security around the community's evacuation zone. Last summer, a destructive explosion gutted part of the downtown. Homes and businesses in the area were evacuated. But as residents and owners wait to return, they were promised their places would be kept secure, but many say that that is not happening. Jacob Barker is on this story for us tonight and joins us now live. Jacob, we've heard about security concerns in the past around the evacuation zone. So what is the latest?
Well, Kat, residents I spoke with today are upset. A picture that we and others in the community have seen shows a security guard who appears to be asleep in his vehicle while on the clock. And this isn't the first time this has happened. Last November, 2 guards were removed from the site after they were seen allegedly asleep on the job as well. Stephanie Charbonneau owns a property close to where the explosion happened. She's upset that this type of thing keeps on happening and is concerned for her things.
The whole area is completely available, right? Without residents there, it kind of makes it an easy target. Everybody knows we're not there in a huge radius. And especially at night when you can say nobody is working on the situation and there's minimal staffing just to monitor for gas. And the farther you get removed from the actual explosion site, the more availability there is for bad things to happen, right?
I spoke with another resident over the phone who told me that with all the stress of this on their shoulders right now, on the shoulders of evacuees, this really isn't needed. She called the whole situation poorly managed.
And Jacob, what are officials saying in response to all this?
Well, a spokesperson for the municipality today told me that they were made aware of the sleeping guard last week and called the company, Garda Security, and the company did remove that guard from the site. I did also speak with the ward councillor for the area today, who says he shares the concerns of residents. He says he wants to see more action from the guards on site to help put residents' minds at ease.
Obviously, I would like them out walking the entire area. If they're in their cars all the time, someone could slip through and basically just go wherever they want. I know there's a policeman there all the time as well, so hopefully they will do a little more walking as well to see what's going on with the guard. Yeah, I definitely worry about the area and, obviously the sleeping, which should not be tolerated.
We did reach out to Garda today, but did not hear back, so it isn't clear to what extent it disciplined that guard.
Thanks for this, Jacob. CBC's Jacob Barker live tonight. The cold weather we've been having this past week has created ice jams on the St. Clair River. The Canadian Coast Guard icebreaker Samuel Risley has been busy the past 2 days breaking up ice on the river to allow freighters through. 2 freighters were escorted yesterday and 3 today. Now, up until now, there has only been 3% ice cover on the Great Lakes. The Windsor Harbor Master says it has increased dramatically over the past few weeks.
Right now, the Great Lakes are 23% frozen over. So we're just above the median average, which is typically 20%. So right now, what we see is Lake St. Clair has about 80% ice, very thin, very brash, broken. The St. Clair River is open, and so is the Detroit River.
The locks are closed for the season, so ships in this area are limited to moving between this side of the Welland Canal and this side of the Sioux Locks. They are mainly carrying salt, heating fuel, asphalt, coal, and propane. The pandemic has taken a significant toll on the local public health unit. COVID has demanded the shifting of staff and resources to manage outbreaks, track cases, and run vaccination clinics. But all of that continues to push some important programs to the side. CBC's Jennifer LaGrassa looks at one area of service that was most impacted.
If you're pregnant or a new mom in Windsor, Essex, looking for supports, they might be a little bit more difficult to find. Over the last 2 years, the Windsor Essex County Health Unit has shifted priorities to manage the pandemic. As a result, programs and departments have really taken a hit.
Our entire Healthy Families department. So, it was a department of about 40 some odd people. And, throughout the pandemic has had ebbs and flows, ebbed anywhere from only 4 people in the department, trying to just really answer calls for parents. At one point we were able to get back up to maybe about 15 people.
The Healthy Families Unit runs 2 programs: Healthy Babies, Healthy Children, and Reproductive and Early Child Health. These offer prenatal support and check-ins as the child grows, but the scope of these programs has changed. Meady Abraham knows firsthand how challenging it can be to not have supports as a first-time mom. It was here at Windsor Regional Hospital that she welcomed her son into the world. With all of her family back home in India, she knew she would need that hands-on guidance. So she enrolled in a program at the health unit. She met with a nurse just days before the pandemic hit, but then the program went virtual.
Unfortunately, it became online or through phone because of the COVID. I feel like it would have been more useful if the home visitors or the nurses could visit us home, like how it was before the COVID pandemic.
Labor doula Kathy Herbertson says prior to the pandemic, there were already few services available in Windsor for expecting moms. Now, that has been made even worse.
I just think it's such a vulnerable time, and we're kind of not giving the new parents the supports they need to get off to a really good start. I think we're really, leaving new families in a bit of a predicament and feeling very isolated on more than one level.
She says breastfeeding services have been especially hard for women to access. The health unit says they are slowly trying to build up staffing in the department, but with the pandemic being so unpredictable, it isn't known when that can happen. Jennifer LaGrassa, CBC News, Windsor.
The University of Windsor is taking stock of 2021. As with everything else, the pandemic complicated campus learning and life. Earlier today, its president held a State of the University address, and part of the speech touched on how the institution could develop and improve post-COVID. Stacey Janzer is live with us tonight now. Stacey, what can students take away from today's speech?
Well, Katerina, there were many issues brought up during the question period for Robert Gordon, the university's president. One person asked about accessible learning, whether the university would keep at-home virtual learning for students who prefer it, pointing to students with disabilities thriving with that technology, allowing for transcriptions and an option to work at their own pace.
Being able to listen and respond to student needs across the university is going to be essential for us as we work our way through the pandemic. Again, as I've mentioned already, I'm truly hoping that the positive lessons that we've learned, how we've been able to kind of work through these really daunting challenges over the past 20 months will build into how we as a university become a true leader in supporting student experience and allowing all of our students to thrive within their academic programs as well.
Gordon says they have teams in place that can make that a reality, mentioning creating strategic plans, but no firm details.
And Stacey, how are students reacting to the messages today?
Well, I spoke with Harry Maiteen. He's a law student and a president of the Disability Student Law Society of Windsor. That organization works to increase accessibility in classrooms. Maiteen says online school may work for some, but not for everyone.
I think the truth is that there are goods and bads to this. Yes, you can work at your own pace, but we're also seeing issues within classrooms as well. Break policies are having huge consequences for students. We're having issues in terms of exam policies and procedures. So while there are issues there are great benefits, like you can work at your own pace, you're able to rewind, you're able to fast forward, and you're able to take more comprehensive notes, you're able to complete your assignments in a more timely manner it's suitable for you. There are drawbacks to it for students with disabilities as well.
Mayteen says there are things the university can do now to make student life better. Effective communication from student accessibility services, action over talk, doing proactive steps, not just saying they will take them, and having an independent consultant.
Being a student with a disability, as I mentioned, is a lived experience. And I think that there needs to be this recognition that you, as a person who is able-bodied, you are privileged, and it's not something you're ever going to fully understand. And so it takes looking to someone who is an expert in this area and really trying to update your policies in line with someone who can better understand it.
Another issue addressed today, inclusivity on campus. The president says he's committed to hiring 12 Black faculty positions. University also plans for an equity, diversity, inclusion, indigeneity, and decolonization external review. Katarina?
Thanks for this, Stacey. CBC Stacey Janzer live tonight. Turning now to COVID in our region. One more person has died from the virus here in Windsor, Essex. It was a man over the age of 100. Meanwhile, 114 people are currently in hospital with the disease. 16 of them are in intensive care. Hospitalizations have dipped slightly locally, but they continue to rise in many parts of the country, driven by Omicron. And while COVID-19 vaccinations are still effective in fighting the variant, researchers are now working on a vaccine that could work even better. Christine Birak shows us how an updated shot targeting the Omicron strain is now in human trials.
Pfizer is now testing its new Omicron-based shot.
We are looking to see if we can create a vaccine that covers Omicron and doesn't forget the other variants.
In a news release, the drug maker announced its trial includes 1,400 healthy adults in 3 groups. People who've received 2 doses of the current vaccine will receive 1 or 2 doses of the Omicron-based shot. Those who've had 3 shots will receive a dose of the current vaccine or the new one. And a third group, that's vaccine naive or unvaccinated, will receive 3 doses of the Omicron-based shot. Recent studies do show third doses or booster shots of current mRNA vaccines are 90% effective at preventing Omicron hospitalizations. But experts say an Omicron-based shot could protect people from even getting infected.
Unless if something completely different comes out.
In other words, there's no way of knowing whether the next variant of concern will resemble Omicron or not. But researchers are already investigating a variant that's being called Omicron's twin.
So we don't really know if BA2 is going to become a thing that we need to worry about.
Scientists say BA2 might be more contagious. It now accounts for roughly half of all current infections in Denmark.
What is important to remember here is that Denmark is not Canada. Denmark is a different population with different vaccine uptake, different medical histories and demographics.
Can you get infection with the original strain of Omicron, and then 2 months later, this B2 variant comes around and now you get reinfected again? I mean, I think that's one of the biggest questions.
So far, there have been a small number of BA2 reinfections. The hope is those who've already encountered Omicron are protected. Pfizer says results from its Omicron-based vaccine trial will take months, but the shot could come in handy. Christine Birak, CBC News, Toronto.
The Bank of Canada has once again held its benchmark interest rate at 0.25%. The so-called overnight rate that the banks charge each other for short-term loans has been at record lows since March of 2020. But the central bank is making it very clear interest rates will be going up to combat inflation.
Canadians should expect a rising path for interest rates. And third, while reopening an economy after repeated waves of COVID is complicated, Canadians can be confident that the Bank of Canada will control inflation.
Inflation is running at a 30-year high of 4.8% in Canada. The bank expects it to surpass 5% before coming back down in the second half of this year. It's expected the bank will increase its trend-setting rate when it makes its next announcement on March 2nd. The central bank says Canada's economy has recovered from the pandemic, but the impact of Omicron remains uncertain. Any increase in the rate will likely lead to rate increases for variable rate mortgages, lines of credit, and car loans. A local group is warning. Keep an eye out for our slithering friends on our city roads. According to a recent survey, a record number of animals were found dead on the roads on a single day, all near the Ojibwe Prairie. And as Jacob Barker reports, while the survey focused on one kind of endangered snake, many other creatures are impacted.
It's quite shocking the fact that we had a record-setting year in 2021 in terms of road mortality at Ojibwe Prairie.
As you can see, this fence has been modified so that some snakes and animals can't get out into the busy roadway, but Choquette says that's not enough.
Small sections where we've seen the highest mortality in the past, that's where our efforts are, and they're particularly centered around the nature reserve. But the problem extends beyond the nature reserve.
Early October is usually a time of high mortality for animals near Ojibwe Prairie, the problematic roads, Malden and Matchette. In one day, a worker for Wildlife Preservation Canada found 119 dead animals, the highest since 2016.
In one day to actually find 119, it really tells us that the problem is ongoing.
Choquette says they are most concerned with endangered reptiles, but the survey found much more.
827 dead animals, frogs, toads, painted turtles, chipmunks, woodpeckers, possums, warblers, cottontails, I mean, you name it. Most vertebrates that live in the area.
Choquette says that a proposed multi-million-dollar eco-passage for Ojibwe would allow for an ecological link across Ojibwe Parkway, but it's not a solution for the side roads. He says people can take action on their own to help solve the problem.
Just voluntarily choosing to avoid, particularly Malden and Matchett Road, during the active season and during September and October really is when we see the most mortality. Ojibwe Parkway, Highway 3 both go around that area.
He says the city has been slow to act on road mortality for years. But next Tuesday, it will be holding a public consultation about traffic calming along Matchette Road. He hopes people will come to speak in favor of it.
If we can find ways to actually reduce the volume of traffic on Matchett Road, then likely we will also see reductions in road mortality.
A spokesperson for the city says there are several studies underway with respect to eco-passages, not only on Ojibwe Parkway, but also on Malden and Matchette Road. He also says the city has a collaboration agreement with Parks Canada to move forward on the vision of a national urban park in that corridor, and that wildlife safety is included in that discussion. Jacob Barker, CBC News, Windsor.
Let's take a live look outside there. A chilly evening. It's going to dip down to -15 and then more chance of flurries into tomorrow. Colette has more. She'll be here right after the break. Stay with us. This cold spell may not be to everyone's liking, but it is good for one thing at least, ice fishing. This here is Tecumseh resident Aaron Strauss, and he's relaxing on the ice, waiting for a bite. And while he did tell us he prefers summer fishing, he does try to get in some ice fishing a few times a season. And this is actually his first time. And he's hoping to catch a few perch for dinner tonight.
I'm actually getting a little bite right now.
Too small, back in the hole for that little guy. And Strauss says that they have got to be at least 8 inches for him to keep. So I think he may have gone home empty-handed tonight, though I hope he has some success later on. But with this weather, he might have some more opportunities out on the ice. This is a good time to bring in Colette Kennedy and find out how much more icy it's going to be in the days ahead, which I feel like the answer is very icy.
Yeah, and with the cold temperatures, you know, it'd be nice to have one of the huts with a little warming.
Yes,
a
little heater in there.
Yeah, a few more of the amenities for his ice fishing there. Let me show you what is going to be happening here over the next few days, including with the temperatures. So not as cold Thursday. So the temperature goes up a little bit, but because of the breeze, there'll be a more significant wind chill. So it's almost a trade-off, but slightly milder. Cold front going through, but that will bring some cloud cover certainly and some flurries kind of off and on through the day, more so as we get towards lunch and into the afternoon. And there it is. So February, we'll have a couple of days where the temperatures are going to come up and be a little milder. They are not mild at the moment. Minus 15 there, Chatham-Kent. And look at your current wind chills. So in that minus 20, minus 22 range. And there are the winds that will be. Now, some of these gusts, this model is really pushing it. I'm not sure they'll necessarily be this strong, but it's quite reasonable that we'll be seeing gusts over 50 or even 55 kilometers an hour into tomorrow morning, and then they'll start to back off into the afternoon. So we had the sunshine today, which was pleasant, clearer conditions tonight, and then as we look ahead to what's going to be happening, that's when things start to change. So we get into slightly milder air because of that southerly flow, but there'll be a cold front coming in, so it's kind of short-lived in terms of what happens with the temperature tomorrow until we get to Monday. So those clouds will come in, some flurries at times, pretty intermittent here into the second half of the day, the better chance. And then, although we'll get clearing behind the front, just look because of the wind direction from Sarnia down through Windsor, it is going to be more difficult to get out of that cloud cover. So it's one of the few areas I've put cloud in there and only a little sun when we talk about what's going to be happening on Friday. Just a dusting to a trace there, maybe 1 centimeter of snowfall as that front goes through. Tonight, minus 15. There it is tomorrow, minus 3 to minus 4, a little cooler for London at minus 6. But the temperature on the thermometer at least coming up. Just keep in mind the wind chill. There's that extra cloud at times Friday. You won't be getting that further over east towards Chatham and Kent. And then Saturday, sunshine. And Sunday, yes, a little light snow as a warm front comes through, but that's important that it's a warm front pushing that temperature up Monday, but more so Tuesday, Wednesday.
I like hearing the word warm in that forecast, so I will take that. Thank you so much, Colette.
You're welcome.
When we come back, we're going to tell you about how Canadian cattle producers, they're a little bit concerned because they're running out of feed. So we will bring you that right after the break. Stay with us. Canadian cattle producers are finding themselves in a serious bind. They are running out of feed, and some say they're just days away from having none at all. CBC's Helen Pike has the story.
The cows at Bear Trap feeders know the sound of a feed truck roaring by. It causes quite the commotion.
We've never had to rely so much on feed for cattle coming from so far away.
Canadian Cattlemen's Association President Bob Lowe says the situation is dire.
We'll be out of corn by the middle of the week. If we're rationing a little bit, probably the end of the week we'll be completely out if we don't get more.
Because of this year's drought conditions, farmers are relying on corn shipments from the U.S. brought in by rail. However, the Alberta Cattle Feeders Association estimates 75% of its members have had corn shipments delayed. CEO Janice Tramberg says things have been touch and go over the last couple of months.
You know, this is being given priority, and there are rail cars that are going to be coming up. So we're just watching really closely and hoping that those get here and we can get them out to our feedlots in time.
Lowe says one way or another, farmers will ensure beef still makes it to market. He hopes this uncertainty doesn't last much longer. Helen Pike, CBC News, Nanton, Alberta.
We're going to tell you about a new arrival at a zoo. The cuteness factor is definitely not in doubt. Take a look. This is a 3-week-old porcupet, which is the term for baby porcupines. The animal made its public debut at the Smithsonian National Zoo in D.C. with mom Beatrix close by. And quill samples from the new arrival are being sent off for DNA testing to help figure out its sex. That is it for CBC Windsor News. Thanks so much for watching. Have a great night.